Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to some more subscriber replays. And there's a bit of a theme to this one. We're going to be looking at tanks that, well, you wouldn't really call them overpowered at tier 8. So we're kicking off proceedings with Silent Tool, and he's driving the T-34-2. This is the tier 8 Chinese medium tank, and it's often been in a bit of a weird place because, well, it's basically for a long time been flat out worse than the T-34-3, at least if you compare the two when this thing gets the big gun. There are a choice of two guns on this tank, a 100mm gun and a big fat 122mm gun. If you use the big gun on this thing, it just doesn't compare favourably with the T-34-3, which is curious because A, Wargaming keep buffing the T-34-3, which is of course the Chinese premium tier 8 medium tank, or one of them, and 2, the T-34-3 gets preferential matchmaking. So, yeah, go figure. Anyway, they changed the Chinese higher tier medium tanks not that long ago. A little bit before Christmas, I believe it was. And as part of those changes, they buffed the 121, which is the tier 8 on the line. And they changed and tweaked the T-34-2 here. And one of those things, one of those buffs that they gave it, was on the big gun. They took the alpha damage from 390 to 360. Sorry, did I say buff? I meant nerf, because clearly this tank needed nerfs. Now, I'm being a little bit churlish. There were areas in which they buffed this tank as well, like for example the penetration on this gun went from 175 to 190. Yay! And there were some other things, but it was just some curious decisions there. Ooh, that was a nice shot. Just some curious decisions there on Wargaming's part. Anyway, here we go. Silent Tool is in his T-34-2. And this tank very definitely, as you can see, does not get preferential matchmaking because here he is slap dab in the middle of a tier 10 game. And just to make matters worse, although this kind of 357 matchmaking, it's kind of not. It's actually 4 tier 10s on each team. Now, Silent Tool has been a little bit lucky with where his shots have gone here, to be fair. And I think, to give Wargaming their credit, I believe they buffed the gun handling on this gun and whatnot, but it just, the way they approached it just seemed a little bit weird. Anyway, he's here on Mines, which is not really the sort of map I would choose if I were in my bottom tier medium tank trying to deal with heavies. Not heavies, sorry, tier 10s. Because it's kind of a small map and you don't really have that much in the way of route to manoeuvre, and it's all just a little bit awkward. Now, I will point out here that Silent Tool does have a respectable stock of premium ammunition for this gun, which buffs the pen up to 250. These are heat rounds, and he is using a food consumable. He's got improved combat rations here, so bear those things in mind. Oh, nice shot there into the Skoda T50. But while he does have a good stock of heat ammunition, thus far he has just used good old-fashioned AP, and it's done the job fine. He's been fighting weaker, or more weakly armoured, I should say, tanks. I don't think anyone would claim that a Skoda T50 is weak, necessarily, but it doesn't have much in the way of armour. So the scoreline is 5-2, his team are winning this, and in terms of kills at least, it looks like it's currently being carried by a Grilla 15 and an Object 907, although, I mean, that's just kills that we're going on here. And Silent Tool here is very much just trying to play the supporting role, damage those people that he can, and so on. The AMX M4 seems to decide everyone needs to know that the FV was firing AP. I suppose, to be fair, given the reload on that tank, it does indicate that perhaps the person isn't just spamming Hesh, which, well, it's something worth knowing, I suppose. Oh, Skoda. Silent Tool is clearly trying to close the distance here, which I don't necessarily think is a bad idea. 360 alpha on this gun means it will outtrade the Skoda, although bear in mind, assuming he's got the top gun, he's got a 3-round magazine, which can be a bit awkward, and he's not going to outtrade the Leopard 1. He's just not. The other thing you have to bear in mind with the T-34-2, for anyone who's not played these by the way, is that in common with a lot of other Chinese medium tanks, this thing takes module damage like you would not believe. And part of that is probably because it's quite a small tank. And so there isn't really anywhere a shell, if it penetrates you, and it probably will because your armour isn't very good, there isn't really anywhere a shell can go in this thing that won't kill someone or knock out a fuel tank or whatever. I always describe this tank as essentially a fuel tank wrapped in ammo racks, with your crew strapped to the outside. And if you think of it in those terms, you won't be disappointed as a general rule of thumb. Ooh, potential to get a cheeky... Never mind. I was going to say a cheeky shot on the ELC there. Someone else does the business, but someone's put a shot into this Skoda, making him a one-shot, and okay. Silent took a hit there, but I think that was a worthwhile trade, taking one hit from the Skoda, who actually rolled slightly low average damage. For the Skoda, was 320, he rolled for 310. In exchange for killing that rather dangerous autoloader, I think that's a pretty fair trade, especially considering the Skoda is, of course, at a higher tier. Now pondering this Leopard, and this is, ooh, takes a hit there from the Leopard, but guy rolls a bit low for 20. Well, it's not too low, to be fair. But this is how, or one of the ways in which you can really have an impact in your bottom tier games. He's essentially tying down and repeatedly kicking these higher tier tanks. Definitely having an impact beyond his tier. He's punching above his weight here, is Silent Tool, which is really nice to see. So, I mean, you could argue it would possibly be worth it to take another hit from the Leopard. It would leave Silent Tool at one shot, but take another hit from the Leopard and kill the guy. It's not like Silent Tool's fuel tanks are damaged. He could have taken advantage of the Leopard's reload there perhaps, but I understand his caution when there is an Su-130 PM in the background, so I'm not being critical. It's just something you might want to try. At the moment he seems to be trying to keep the Leopard spotted so that someone else can kill him, which is a fair thing to be doing, and at the moment, to be honest, the scoreline is 7-4. It seems that the friendly team is in the ascendancy, so there's no rush to go and push the pace of things and potentially take risks that aren't warranted and get yourself kicked in the spleen as a result. So I'm not criticising Silent Tool's gameplay here at all. He's being patient, which especially when you're bottom tier and, you know, a mistake can very quickly lead to your untimely demise, a little bit of patience is, I think, definitely a virtue. But it's worth pointing out, he's being patient without camping at the back of the map or something. I don't think anyone would say he's been passive in this game. Well, he's just been cautious, and the Leopard was distracted. Really nice job there, taking advantage of the Leopard's distraction to deal with that tier 10 medium tank and not take any damage for it whatsoever. So lovely play there from Silent Tool in his T-34 too. Now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bad guys left. We know where 4 of them are. The ones who have not yet been spotted are the Udes. The fact that he hasn't been spotted shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody at all. Ooh, there's that SU. Oh, that SU's gone. And who else hasn't been spotted yet? Oh, of course, it's going to be the Borsig again. That shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone. Both of those are rather sneaky tank destroyers. But Silent Tool pushing up here, and he's going to try for a shot on the side of this 257. The problem is, in order to pen the side of an Object 257, realistically, you need in excess of 200 pen. That thing is a bizarrely armoured machine. So these shots are not realistically going to do a great deal of much. Personally, I think Silent Tool would actually be better here. And the object is fired. Silent Tool could try a shot, but I wouldn't expect him to pen. I think Silent Tool would actually be better here moving forward. Now, Silent Tool is asking the Stridsvagn if he can move, but if I just take control of the camera for a moment, we can see the Stridsvagn's got himself into a spot of bother. So the answer to that question, can you move, is no. No, I cannot. And Silent Tool here, well, he's gonna try and be a bit of a teammate here. The Stridsvagn is clearly a more powerful tank than Silent Tool's T-34-2. That Stridsvagn's really in an awkward position, and it'd be great if that guy could be back into the game. So Silent Tool here is trying to right the fellow without taking undue risks that are going to get him taken out by the enemy. And a little bit more might be able to do it. Come on. Oh, that looks promising. There we go. Lovely, lovely little bit of team play there. Silent Tool could have very easily decided it wasn't worth the effort, and the game was potentially going to be over soon anyway, but then you have to bear in mind the friendly team would be down a tier 9 tank destroyer, so I really like that move there. I think that was very sensible indeed. And all in all, I think that was a much better play than just rushing forward, with the aim of trying to hurt these guys. Now, what I don't like here is Silent Tool's ammunition choice. So here's the thing, he's got heat loaded here, presumably for the Object 257, because he doesn't really need heat for anyone else. The problem is, heat isn't very good against an Object 257, because certainly against the sides of that guy, you need, as I say, about 200 pen to go through, and there's a lot of spaced armour there. Heat is just not a very reliable ammunition choice. He didn't need heat against the Borsig there. Heat has the disadvantage that it won't go through all those walls and whatnot that are in the way. And I guess you could argue heat would help against the FV215B183, but I would argue that you only want to approach that guy when he's on reload, and if you're approaching him when he's on reload, you've probably got the opportunity to go around the sides a little bit, and ooh, lovely shot on the move there to kill the aforementioned FV215B183, and that is the game. So my only real criticism of that game would be ammunition choice right at the end. I don't think heat was the right round. I think Silent Tool would have been better off with just armour piercing would have been fine. But, lovely game there, Silent Tool not in an overpowered tank, not top tier, not spamming premium ammunition at everything that moves, just a really solid bottom tier result there from Silent Tool in his T-34-2, and it was really nice to see. And also nice to see this tank in action since Wargaming buffed, nerfed, changed it? I don't know what word to use. Anyway, let's have a look at the post-game stats for this one. So, in the end, that was enough for First Class Mastery, Fighter, Bruiser, Duelist. Sorry, what am I talking about? Let's start again. First Class Mastery, Fighter, Fire for Effect, Duelist. There's no Bruiser in there. I'm losing the plot. But there is an Oskins medal, which is a really nice one to pick up. Destroy at least 3 enemy tanks or tank destroyers with a medium tank, and the enemy tank should be at least 1 tier higher. So basically, kill the higher tier things in your mediums, which is really nice. And of Silent Tools for kills, I cannot English at the moment. The Borsig, tier 8, Skoda was tier 9, FV was tier 10, Leopard was tier 10, there you go. Tier 9 and 2 tier 10s. Really nice award to be picking up there. 2,657 damage done, 4 kills, 1,098 base experience. Shout out should probably go there as well. To the Object 907 on Silent Tool's team, 5,500 damage, 3 kills, 1,226 base XP. And the SU-130PM, another tier 8, 3,090 damage, 1 kill, 892 base XP from him. On the enemy team, I guess commiserations to the Object 257 and the E100. They were putting up a fairly stiff fight, but alas, not quite enough. And the Udes, to be fair, 2,000 damage from him. Bottom tier on a map that, whilst you can definitely do well as a tank destroyer on this map, I don't think anybody would say it was their first choice of map in their sort of lightly armoured paper tank destroyers. 11 shots fired, 10 hits, 9 penetrations for that damage count. Most of it was from pretty close up. 2 hits received, both of them penetrated. The only armour you have on this tank is on the front of the turret, and even then in a tier 10 game, don't rely on that too much. 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 4 destroyed, 312 assistance damage, 2.53 kilometres travelled, and you can see there, I mean, these 122mm shells will probably clock in at about 1,000 credits each for the AP shells, and Silent Tool did fire a couple of heat rounds there, which is pushing the ammunition costs up, and he was resupplying the food consumable there, and it looks like he hadn't got them bought at half price. He was just resupplying them as they came, and so he does make a small loss in that game, but I very much doubt he really cares, and who can blame him. A nice result there. Bottom tier, medium tank, that's not very good. Just a nice result. Well done, Silent Tool. A game to be proud of. Got one more to show you in this video, though, and, well, you'll see when we get there. here we go with our second game then, and if you take a look at the matchmaking, you might get a sense of deja vu. This is another tier 8 tank in another tier 10 game with 4 tier 10s per team. We've done this Fandango before, but this time we are joining Pansy. He is in the ISU 152K, more on that in a moment, and we are here on the Arctic region, Mannerheim line. I forget what this map's called these days. Mannerheim line, they keep changing the name of it. So, oh, I should mention, of course, he's in a 3-man tier 8 tank platoon with Chaos Raven in the IS-22. It's got a 2-2, or maybe it got one from university. Anyway, I'm hilarious. And Samuel X-43A in his guard, the STG, the Soviet medium tank. So the ISU 152K, well, back in the day, for anyone who's not aware, the ISU 152, that's the tier 8 Soviet tank destroyer, had the BL-10, big fat 152mm gun with 750 alpha damage and 286 average millimeters of penetration, firing regular AP. Quite the gun. Not very reliable though. And it was one of those sort of love or hate tanks. Personally, I did not like it. Ooh, juicy, 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 juicy. Ooh. That was only 712, just by the way. He didn't do over 1,000 damage with one shot. Anyway, I was never a great fan of it because it was a bit of a glass cannon. And Wargaming decided to change the ISU 152. They removed the 152mm gun. Well, let me rephrase. They removed the 152mm BL-10 gun and replaced it with another 152mm gun, the name of which I cannot remember. It doesn't really matter. Oh, 840, that's going to leave a mark. Now, the new gun still had 750 alpha damage, which was frustrating because I always felt that was kind of the problem with the ISU. But it brought the penetration down from 286 to 260. Now, in compensation, to be fair, I believe they might have actually slightly improved the reload on the gun, and they definitely gave the tank more hit points, so it was TD with 1200 hit points. Now, I actually prefer the ISU 152 these days. But it is a bit curious that they decided to do that, and then they released the ISU 152K, which is basically... yeah, I mean, it's basically the old ISU 152 with the BL-10 gun and 286mm of standard pen. Except it's a premium tank. Oh, do you see what they did there? They want you to... so they take away the thing that some people liked about the tank. And then they say, well, if you want it, you can open up your wallet and give us some money. I can see why some people didn't necessarily take to that idea too well. And Wargaming have done this sort of thing before. The Panzer IV-S is a prime example. The Panzer IV, back in the day, used to have that 75mm gun. Oh, poor little baby. The L70, I think it is. 75mm gun. But when that became a bit overkill, because bear in mind the Panzer IV used to see like tier 9s and whatnot, when that became a little bit overkill and they gave it a different 75mm gun, they decided to reintroduce the Panzer IV with that bigger gun as the Panzer IV-S, a premium, make you pay for it, but at least it was tier 6. You know, they had changed it a little bit, but this is still at tier 8. Like, I don't understand, without my cynical hat on, I don't understand the chain of logic that goes, yeah, that doesn't work at tier 8, so let's remove it and replace it with a tank with the same gun at tier 8. And in fact, actually, it looks like the ISU 152K has 1200 hit points. So, like, what's the text tree version doing? I just find it all a little bit confusing. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. While I've been waffling, Pansy, by the way, has picked up 3.6k damage. I mean, this gun hurts when it hits you. 152mm of lovin' will do that. Oh, hello, Mr. Patriot. Goodbye, Mr. Patriot. You have had a bad day. Now, the scoreline is 7-6, but once again, we're actually seeing, if you'll just let me for a moment, you're actually seeing how bottom-tier tanks can definitely be useful. Even when, well, they're bottom-tier, hence the name. That Badger there is holding the corner like a boss. And the Badger, frontally, is a very scary tank, but if you can get the sides of the Badger, it suddenly becomes a lot less scary, and, oh, let's just for a moment consider that poor AMX M4 who just had a same tier tank put a regular AP round right through the front of his tank. Anyway, But if you can get the sides of a Badger, suddenly it becomes a lot less scary. And what we've got with Pansy, and I think it was Sam in this particular case, Pansy and Samuel, they basically guarded the flanks of that Badger and stopped them getting around the sides of him and allowed them to hold that corner. Tier 8 tanks being useful in Tier 10 games. Oh, we just lost Chaos Raven. Can he be avenged? The scoreline's 7-8 though, I feel I should point out. They haven't won this. Well, they certainly haven't won this yet, even if they do go on to win it. There is still a lot of mileage left in this game, potentially. Now, a couple of Tier 8s die on the enemy team there, and suddenly the scoreline is 9-8. Pansy is down to 323 hit points. He did start off doing the whole snipey thing, but having to get a little bit up close and personal, which at least you can do. Like, if you've got 750 alpha damage, as long as you're in a situation where you're just going to trade with someone or they don't know you're coming, ooh, that guy got shut the hell down, you can slap them for 750 and hopefully run away. The problem becomes when there are multiple opponents or when they shoot you in the tracks and suddenly you're not going anywhere quickly. The ISU either variant is definitely not fitted out with close quarter combat in mind. That guy got unlucky. Oh well. But in a pinch, it can do it if necessary. And by the way, the friendly team has gone on a little bit of a rampage and suddenly the scoreline is 13-8. And that T-54 and IS-7 are wondering what they did to deserve this. Interestingly, the IS-7 still doesn't want to go out in front of the Badger, but if he just sits where he is, the friendly team are going to encircle and kill him. So he needs to do something rather than just sit there with his thumb firmly entrenched up his backside. Like the fact that the Badger, with help from a couple of Tier 8s, was able to hold that corner, I think really did the friendly team an awful lot of favours, because without that, had that northern flank been lost, pretty sure this game would have been a defeat. Oof. Well. Oh dear. Anyway, sorry, I'm gonna stop just giggling. There's just this IS-7 left. He's just gonna get surrounded and murderized. He is, to be fair to him, pushing on the Badger and the guard. And if you look at the hit points of the friendlies here, this could still go quite badly wrong. Samuel in his guard puts in, I think it's he who puts in that nice big meaty shell into the IS-7 there for about 450 damage, high damage roll, but does go down to the IS-7. The IS-7 is now a one-shot. He's very unlikely to pull this back, but you can see the friendly team... oh, okay, no, the IS-4 is almost full health. Never mind, the IS-7's probably screwed. I was just thinking there were a number of tanks on the friendly team who are low health. T-34, Pansy here in his ISU, but yeah, there's a pretty healthy IS-4 and a fairly healthy Super Conqueror and an AE Phase 1, and yeah, the IS-7's pretty screwed. And there we go. That is the game. Let's have a look at those post-game stats. So, there we go. Ace Tanker. Bruiser, I got it right this time. Fighter, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, and Tank Sniper medals. Very nicely done, and that's a lot of credits, and that's a lot of experience. 6,006 damage, 4 kills, 1,805 base experience. That's what happens when you do 6,000 damage, predominantly to higher tiers. Let's just have a look at who it was. Panhard EBR, Tier 8, Tier 8, Tier 9, Tier 8, Tier 9, Tier 8, Tier 8. Tier 10 and Tier 8, so you're shooting your own tier and higher all the time, yeah, as of course you're going to do in this matchmaking. If you can make it work, that's a lot of XP. Shout out should also go to the friendly AE Phase 1, 3,000 damage and 4 kills is a very nice result there. Samuel also getting a good result, 2.3k damage in his guard. The Badger holding the corner, 3.7k damage from him. T-34, 1.7k damage, Super Conqueror, 3,500. Like, it was just basically half of the friendly team did really, really, really well. And the other half, yeah, less so. Enemy team, commiserations I guess should go to the IS-7, 5,000 damage from him, but not enough for the win. And that's probably about it. I mean, none of the rest of the team really performed all that well. The enemy team, that is. They just sort of won the north flank, wrapped around, and stopped. And Panzer's team just picked them apart. So, there's that. 10 shots fired, 10 hits, 10 penetrations. That's just a nice round number that makes me happy. Only 2.6k from long range in the end, so we got the Tank Sniper award despite the fact that most of his damage actually ended up being from closer range. 5 hits received, 3 penned, 1 did not. That was because he wasn't being shot by big scary tier 10s as a general rule of thumb. 280 damage blocked by his armour, more luck than judgment, the armour on this thing, but, you know, not gonna say no. Almost 1,000 assistance damage, and nice amount of credits, remembering this thing is a tier 8 premium tank. Just a really nice result there. So there we go, a couple of replays for you in bottom tier, tier 8 tanks, showing you can still prod buttock, even if you are not given all of the advantages, and without excessive premium ammunition spam and whatnot, and not really playing tanks that I think you could call overpowered, although the ISU, I mean 750 alpha damage and 286 pen is quite a lot. It's just the rest of the tank sucks. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed those two replays. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. You can throw your own replays over to me, of course, by uploading them to whatreplays.com and then copying and pasting the URL into Discord. Links in the video description to both Discord and, of course, Patreon if you wish to chip in, see what I did there, and help out there. And either way, I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. See you later. Ciao, ciao.